All right, welcome back to Digibros. Got pretty deep on the last episode. Let's go into I've got my list of things to talk about.
You're recording, right?
I am, right?
Okay.
I hit start.
I think
Well,
so.
Now I need to check again because
I just got nervous.
Insecure. Yes. We're gonna record. The thing is scary because it literally just says
goes away.
like you hit start and then you just wait to hit stop and it's scary
right.
as fuck.
We're good.
Yeah, you see it counts up right there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
we are recording. It's recording to my external hard drive, so it should have like infinite space.
Infinite.
Okay. So I wanted to get into the fact that Conrad and May have been lightly criticized for how much they talk about sex all the time. And I thought that was interesting because we don't talk about sex at all.
Right.
But, I mean, Conrad and May are unique in the way that they talk about sex constantly. But they were talking about how they're both just really into it, and they're both, like, hypersexual, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas now, you know, it's clear from our discussion last episode that you are not very sexual.
Not particularly.
And so now there's some history and some reasoning in why me and Hope don't just talk about sex all the time.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know. It's not that I'm uncomfortable talking about sex. I just don't necessarily love putting everything out there on the internet. Which, if you can, cool. Totally no judgment. Just not for me.
That's part of the thing is that, like, I love that they talk about sex so much. Because sex is really interesting to me, and I do think it's important to talk about it. Like, I think it's really important to talk about sex.
Because not talking about it is what makes shit like what I experienced happen.
Exactly.
That's
what
the problem.
Leads to, it's really because we're similar in a way, but for you it became more extreme. But for me it was just sexual anxiety. Like, I had horrible sexual anxiety. Especially going into when we started becoming sexually active, it was clear that I had a lot of pent-up anxiety about it. But, oh, I can change my weapon. Oh, thank God. It's like, oh, I'm sick of the sniper rifle. But I had a lot of sexual anxiety. And part of that is because your entire life, no one is talking about sex. And it makes people uncomfortable. And it makes you uncomfortable because it's been built up in this way. And so, like, of course I had fucking sexual anxiety because it's built up as this big thing because no one wants to talk about it. So I think it's extremely important for people like Conrad and May to talk about sexuality and to talk about sex in general and how it's really not a big deal.
Right.
Like, it's not this scary thing.
If you normalize
it's just a fun thing that people do, that adults do, and it's great. And it's awesome like 100% of the time. And it's just not that scary, you know?
It's not, yeah.
And it's not a huge deal. Like, having sex doesn't change you. It doesn't change you
as a
life.
person. Like,
it's not the end of the world, you know? And it's not super difficult. like for males, you know, the big anxiety is that you're not going to be good at it, you know? Is that you're going to fuck it up, and then your life is basically going to be ruined.
Your life is ruined forever, yeah.
You fucked up your relationship because you weren't good at sex. And it's like, okay, sex isn't really hard, and also women enjoy sex. That's another thing that people need to get out there. The fact that, especially for cuck boys like me growing up who didn't have a lot of experience with women, you don't realize that women have sex drives and like sex and want it. And these are fucking basic facts about life that any adult knows, but more kids and young adults without sexual experience need to fucking know. Like, it needs to be drilled into your head that you need to get over your sexual anxiety and just, like, have a first experience so you can realize it's not a big deal and enjoy your fucking life and not build up, like, this huge monster in your head of sex that just kind of rules you, you know?
Yeah, it just needs to be normalized where people can talk about it and express, like, you know, their feelings or their anxieties and get, like, actual, real, honest advice that isn't porn.
Exactly. You just go watch porn, and then it's just like, whatever. And then you feel bad about watching porn. Like, for me, it was always guilt. Guilt was a huge thing for me growing up. Because I thought it was something wrong, and so you watch porn and you feel guilty, and then you get more anxiety and you feel more depressed. And then it's, the cycle of terror.
The cycle of terror.
I was very guilty, because to me, being a pervert was, like, the worst possible thing. Because to me, growing up, it wasn't clear that women, like, had sex drives and are perverted, you know? Like, that was never apparent to me, that girls are perverted, too. It was only, like, weird, slutty girls that are perverted. But it's like, no, all girls are a little fucking perverted.
It's really weird. I wonder... Women. I do wonder where... It all started that everyone has to act like women aren't interested in sex at all.
It's
or they're not into, you know...
Because that's just, like, to me, like, being a pervert made you undesirable, you know? Like, the fact that you feel this sexual way makes you a terrible person, and therefore you won't be able to get women, kind of thing. Right. But it's really, like... I think the more perverse you are and the more openly sexual you are, the greater chance you have of getting with women, because then you're more likely to get, like, early experimentation and stuff, because women are going through the same thing of, like, discovering sex and being perverted. And that's how, you know, the more perverse people generally, like, have sex at younger ages, I think.
I don't know.
Or the people who are open to sex sooner, you know.
I think a lot of that probably has to do with your family and your, like, upbringing.
Yeah, the way you grew up. I don't know. The people you hang around.
Yeah,
if you're
your
a popular
friends.
kid, you know. If you have exposure to women earlier.
I mean, I don't know.
It's a interesting quandary. I'd like to hear what other people say about it. But Connor was, like, May was saying that she was always very openly sexual, you know. I don't know how young she started having sex or any of that, but... She seemed like she was a very perverted child. And it's like, to me as a kid, I would have never known or imagined that, you know. I never would have known girls were perverted until maybe high school, and then it's too late. You know, you're already fucked.
It is a very interesting, like, it's just two completely different stigmas that contribute to the same problem, in that, like, you're always taught growing up that, like, all guys are perverts. All guys are perverts. Mm-hmm. All guys, you know, they think about sex every 6 seconds, or whatever that stupid fake statistic is. And then it's like, girls, it's always like, girls don't think about sex. If you're a girl and you think about sex, then you're a pervert and you're just as bad as the guys. Like, and no one's guys aren't gonna want you because you're not pure.
You're a slut.
Yeah, you're a slut.
You're a slut.
So if you're a girl and you're like that, then dudes aren't going to want you. But all dudes are perverts. So it creates this big quandary.
So it's like, well,
what do I do?
And you're like, I don't want to act like I want to have sex, because that's what the bad guys do, you know?
That's what the bad guys do.
That's what the assholes do.
If you're in a Reki Kawahara
you have to be a sexless douchebag, fucking white knight cuck boy.
You gotta be a white knight cuck boy.
And then you don't get any girls because you just come off as super friendly to all the girls. And, like, I do think for most normal people, relationships, you have to establish sexuality, like, pretty early on, you know? You have to establish that there is a sexual interest, or else you will become a friendship interest.
In a normal TM relationship.
Like, you look at Conrad and May, where they started as Snapchat. Same with... fucking Mumkey, you know, you start with the sexting, and then you form, like, if it starts with sex, then you know that's what you're looking for, like, and not just being casual friends.
And then you can decide if there's chemistry from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people that probably does work.
Like, sexual, interest is probably the easier way to get, like, if you don't want to spend 6 years, like, wearing someone down, then... You start with sexual interest and make sure you're compatible, and then you go from there.
Wearing someone down.
But then all the long time nice boys are always looking for, I don't want, you know, I'm not just looking for sex. I want someone who, you know, I can have a conversation with and all this. But it's like, you gotta kind of like, maybe you should just do the sex first, and then, like, get that out of the way, and then worry about, like, how compatible you are.
Yeah.
Because
it's not a big deal.
And because those guys are building it up in their mind,
yeah.
Like, because they're looking for this weird certain thing when they've never had a relationship before, and then they'll never find it because they've never had a relationship to see what they like, you know? They have a perception of what they want. I'm now delving into I shouldn't say his name. Let's go the Rusty territory. Like, I'm thinking of guys like Rusty, because he's very much a guy who's like, oh, I want a girl, you know, who I can be friends with or whatever. It's like, you know, he's the kind of guy who he doesn't want to seem perverted, you know, he doesn't want to be openly sexual right off the bat. But it's like, well, everyone's a pervert. Like, you gotta admit that you're a pervert, and you gotta admit that you wanna have sex. That's what you want in a relationship. You have friends who are women. You have plenty of, you know, you can get along with girls. You have
friends who are women who you're in love with, so yeah.
But you don't want to be friend zoned, which means you want to have sex. That's what it's about, you know. You might also want to cuddle and stuff. That's all cool. But you can't cuddle if you don't. The cuddling comes with sex. Like, it's sex first and then you cuddle. So you need to, like, get in a relationship with someone and figure out what the fuck you're doing, or put a lot of time into it, you know? Like,
you want the easy way or the hard way?
Exactly. It's the easy way or the hard way. It's exactly it. Like, you either get in a relationship through sex, or you spend a lot of fucking effort in a relationship. I don't know. But then I don't feel like what we did, our circumstance, will work for anyone else in the world.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind
really
of a
us.
weird one.
So it's like, the advice I'm giving doesn't apply to my life at all.
It just doesn't apply
but it
to
applies to everyone else in the world. Like, most people don't get out of the friend zone.
You just need to write a dating advice book for people who want to date asexuals.
Exactly.
Are you worried the girl you're interested in may be asexual or gray asexual? Well.
Gray sexual?
Have I got the book for you? It's very specific, but very helpful.
Yes. I just need to start hooking white knights up with asexual girls.
It's the only
way.
Because
they'll feel so guilty about themselves, and they'll be so selfless that they can spend the time to, like, comfort someone. I don't know. I hate all that shit. I'm so glad I'm in a relationship now. I don't even have to think about all this shit.
Well, and I think that's the other thing is, not necessarily that you're trying too hard, but when you make, like, getting into a relationship the sole priority in your life, it kind of drives it away. It makes I feel like it makes you less likely to get in a relationship because it's all you focus on, and you're just so driven on that one thing that it envelops your whole personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when your whole personality is that you're not getting laid, you're not going to get laid.
Yeah.
Like, you need to first have your passions and your interests, and then, like, somewhere along the line, you're probably going to meet someone who likes you. You know, look at Conrad. Conrad did not focus on getting a relationship at all. It's just like, he made a career for himself, and one day he started to feel like, oh, I kind of want a girl, and then a girl came to him who was a fan of him, you know?
Right.
I think in general, girls tend to like guys, you know, who are passionate about their jobs and stuff, and that's usually a way that the girls will get into guys, you know, if it's a workplace relationship. I don't know. You'll find a way. Just don't prioritize. Don't fucking prioritize it. I know it's hard.
Don't be a tryhard.
I've been there. Just, you gotta let it go and stop thinking about it and focus on yourself, and then just let it happen, because that's not the focus of your life, you know? You gotta get your career going first. That's gotta be your focus.
You gotta, you gotta better yourself, and then you can, you know, good things will come.
Yeah. And if you're depressed, if you don't like yourself, you're not gonna like yourself more when you get in a relationship.
That's true, yeah.
Like, you gotta start liking yourself now.
You have to already have that basis of being comfortable and loving yourself before you can support somebody else in a relationship.
Hopefully we're giving good advice. Hopefully we aren't giving the shittiest advice ever. But I think we're doing okay. I don't know. And I feel like our audience might relate to this, just because the fact that there are people listening to Conrad and May who are uncomfortable with the sexual talk. Right. I feel like if you're uncomfortable with people talking about sex, you're either a virgin, you're sexually repressed in some way, maybe you're a teenager. If you're a teenager, being a virgin is fine. You don't need to get laid. Get that out of your fucking head. That is an important thing. Most guys, I know at least, are getting laid in their early mid-20s, you know? Yep. After college. Times change. Our parents' generation were fucking in college and stuff. Get over that now. Your college experience isn't going to be that. It's not going to be what you saw in the movies. You're going to be a commuter. You're going to live with your parents. You're not going to go to college fuck parties. Like, get over that now. Don't worry about it. Just have a good time. You know, don't stress about this shit and don't get all depressed about it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter.
It's really not.
I had another point I was going on that, and I started talking about college fuck parties. I don't know, it just bothers me. It's one of those things where it's like you wish you hadn't wasted so much time thinking about certain things, your whole life.
Yeah,
I'm glad with the way I turned out, but, like, be productive first, guys.
Be productive.
Yeah, because I was talking about how our audience might be those kinds of people. Because, it's like, I know our audience is probably a lot of high school people. I was there. I was in high school. I figure you probably have similar experiences to me if you're into listening to me talk, So if I can help someone else not waste their experience and, like, not have as much anxiety as I had, I'm glad with the way I turned out. For me, it was gonna work out that same way no matter what. Like, I had to come to terms with those things because of the way my life went. I needed to learn those certain things in order to develop. But if I could have learned those things sooner, there's a lot of time that could have been spent doing other things, I could be deep into my career faster.
Yeah,
and because I know most people aren't going to be as resilient as me and, like, keep it going for so long. I'd rather they stop being depressed faster and not, like, kill themselves. Whew. Life's interesting. You always gotta... Everyone's gonna figure stuff out at their own pace. I don't really believe in advice very much.
Yeah, because most advice is shit.
Yeah. Like, I listen to a lot of advice. Most of it's shitty. I went through a lot of the self-help stuff in high school, and I got really into psychology and everything. And it's like, no matter how much you learn... Yes, The Secret, all of that. But no matter how much you learn, how much you try to learn, like, you are you, and not much is gonna change.
No one else's experiences are gonna be like your experiences. So even if you can find similarities, don't follow anyone else's advice to a T.
Yeah, and you're not gonna, like, if you can't help yourself in, like, the way you act, like, you can't force yourself to follow some advice because it's not gonna, like, it's just not gonna work. And certainly don't listen to fucking pickup artists. Good God.
But what about mommy-daughter makeout day?
Exactly, mommy-daughter makeout day. Can I not just snipe those? I just gotta grapple hook off and snipe from the middle.
I don't know, man. My legs, they're falling asleep.
You were never super into psychology, were you?
No, I kind of think... I kind of thought it was all hokey bullshit.
It is. All psychology is bullshit. There's certain things that are like, yeah, those are observable behaviors.
Right. There's certainly patterns, but, like...
I've always been very intuitive, so for me, like, a lot of stuff in psychology was really obvious. But then, like, it's something you shouldn't get hung up on because none of it is... It's all just observations. The scientific method is just observing things, that are occurring. You experiment, you make observations, and you draw conclusions. And, like, that's what it is. But don't base your personality around any of it. Don't sweat over any of it,
Yeah.
Blah.
That's why I've never taken a psychology class, nothing like that, because I was always just like, it's bullshit. Yeah.
Don't make it part of your identity.
It's fine.
Like, I would get into a lot of psychology, and then, like, I became obsessive over those things. Like, obsessed with, I've observed that I am OCD, and therefore that is part of me, and it's, like, being obsessed with being depressed and stuff. Like, I would obsess over a lot of those things. And it's really just, it's a waste of time. Like, you are who you are. Like, you need a certain degree of self-awareness, but then, like, you don't think about it too hard. Like, no, being self-aware, extremely self-aware, does not always change who you are, because you can't help yourself, and then you just end up wasting a lot of time, like, fretting over the fact that things are the way they are. Yeah. I don't know if any of that makes sense. Well, that's my thoughts on psychology and the Digibros audience. I hope we're helping you guys. I hope we're making good observations. A few years ago, I would have been way more interested in this topic, but it's just not something I think about anymore because we've kind of, like... I'd say we've gotten to a point of, like, general happiness and, like, stability that I'm not really thinking about deep analytical concepts about my own brain and shit anymore.
Right.
I used to self-analyze a fucking lot. But that just gets you trapped in a loop, where you're observing yourself too much. It's ridiculous. I was a broken boy. But for me, it was like I was depressed most of my life, and then coming into high school, it was like I just needed to figure myself out, and then getting into psychology just put me in like that whole world. And then like, it's a slippery slope. It's a spiral. You just spiral down, and you just make yourself worse. Because when you're depressed and you're aware of that, but you can't do anything about it, then you just feel even more guilty and even more depressed because you can't control it. It's ridiculous.
Because then you just feel like there's something you should be able to do and you can't. You're painfully aware that you're wasting resources and energy.
And I was an emotional boy, and I fall into the same cycles. You know, I was always very anxious and paranoid about what other people were thinking about me and things. And you just get into this cycle of just fucking, you are your own worst enemy. And then, like, no one is hating you as much as you hate yourself.
Right.
But then, because you hate yourself, you assume everyone hates you. And they're all out to get you. But it's really just like...
the thing is, nobody actually cares.
Exactly.
No one is judging you as hard as you're judging
yourself. Yeah. For me, it was always definitely being very harsh on myself when no one else cares at all.
Yeah. Guarantee all that like self-awareness and anxiety. Nobody else even notices probably the things that you're self-aware about.
And I'm still the same way. I still feel like nobody, like, I always feel like I'm being a dick to people, even though I'm probably not, and they don't really care.
Right.
And I always am hating what I do. And assuming people are pissed off at me when I really haven't done anything. Like, literally all I did was, like, not talk to them enough, and I feel like everyone's pissed off at me about it. The procrastinators talked about this to an extent with, how they never talk to each other. And then it's just, like, when you're not talking to someone, you don't want to just, like, start talking to them, I guess. For me, I always feel the same guilt with, like, Marcus and Brando and everyone who's, like, not around, where I'm, like... Because I haven't been talking to them in so long, I feel like if I start talking to them, then, like, they're gonna be even more sad when I stop again, because I'm not gonna keep it up very long, you know? I'm not gonna, like, consistently keep in contact with anyone, so I just don't keep in contact with them at all, because I don't want to feel like a dick by, like, not being there enough, you know? Very much all or nothing. I don't know. I'm weird in that way.
It is very all or nothing, yeah.
Because inevitably I'm gonna, like, forget to reply to someone, and then the conversation's gonna end, and then it's not gonna pick up, and I'm gonna feel bad about it. And it's like, oh, why did I even bother? I just made myself more of an asshole.
Being an adult and maintaining relationships is hard.
It's difficult, yeah, because you're not thinking about other people.
That's the problem, yeah.
I spent so much of my life just thinking about you, and now we're together, so, like, I'm not thinking about anything anymore. I would say I spent a significant amount of my life, like, thinking about you. Like, I thought about you constantly. I don't know if you thought about me this much at any point in our life, but I thought about you fucking all the fucking time. Because I was in love with you, you know, most of the time. That was true of high school times and, reconnection times.
Reconnection time.
There was a time where we weren't talking to each other much, and that was my self-discovery time. And I'm glad, you know, there was a bit of a little break. It was because Marcus went away, and he used to be, like, the driving factor in us hanging out for a little while. And I mostly thought I was pissing you off all the time, and, like, you were probably sick of me. So I was like, alright, I'll just do my own thing for a little while. And then it's interesting, because now I look back at those old pictures of myself, and I can tell the ones that were in, like, self-discovery Victor. Because I, like, started getting really fit. I had my beard going, like, the whole time, you know. I was doing that, like, college-age white guy beard self-discovery mode. First, there was a time through medication. That was the most depressing time of my entire life. Kids, antidepressants are a last resort. Get really well diagnosed. That shit sucks.
Yeah.
I don't recommend antidepressants for anyone. That was, like, the first year of college. And then that led me down a very, very dark place. That's probably where I felt the most like a dick. I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing, and then you were doing your own thing. But it was good. It gave us some time apart.
Yeah.
And then when we got back together, it was like, oh my god, this is... At first I was like, Yeah, I can finally be Hope's friend. I've gotten out of the
had
whole
such noble
obsessive
intent.
love thing, and I was like, yes, we can be just friends now. You're being a cool bro. And then like I was trying to do that for a while, and then I think it progressively just started escalating to the point where I was like, I think there's something here again. I think I'm gonna stop fucking around.
And it was at that point that you decided to go to grad school?
Yes. Well, here's part of that. I don't know if I've ever explained all of my motivations in wanting to go to grad school, because part of that was, well, I mean, the biggest motivation is that it would have been good for the career. Like that's why I felt like I had to go. I felt like if I wanted to do the film stuff, that I needed to do that. But then there was also like, to an extent, when I first started thinking about it, there was me still being in love with you, and that's not going to go anywhere. And so part of it was I could get away, you know? And then like I wouldn't have to feel so bad all the time. I wouldn't have to burden you with me being in love with you all the time. And that was definitely something I thought about while doing that. And then the fact that I was going to go away like escalated our feelings of realizing how much we're going to miss each other when I'm gone. And then it was like, well, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to do that. And then we became in a relationship, and now it's like, oh, God, I don't think I can handle this.
How to ruin someone's career in 6 easy years.
No. My career is going fucking fine. If I still strongly believe that if I went off to grad school, there's a high possibility I could have killed myself. So never feel bad about me not going to grad school, because as a suicidal boy, who knows what the fuck I would have done going to grad school and being depressed all the time. Like I think it would have made me really sad, and it wouldn't have worked out well. So don't feel bad about that at all. But I will say, you know, the original motive of wanting to leave changed, because now it's like, well, I don't want to leave anymore. But there was that to an extent. Also, when that was part of it when I wanted to go to it was like after my first year at ODU, I wanted to just transfer to JMU, because I was just kind of sick of being in Virginia Beach, and like, you know, that was a part of it. Yeah. Still being in love and feel like an asshole, and just being like, maybe I just need to get away from here. Put some distance in there, forced distance. And then I wouldn't. Mostly, you know, I felt like I was a burden on you, and so I didn't want to be a burden on you. You know. I couldn't control my feelings and my love, so like there needs to be some distance. But then I didn't want to stop being your friend, you know. So I couldn't do that. That's part of the progression. That's hard to say. I don't want to make you sad. I don't want to make you feel guilty. Hope always feels guilty about me not going off to school and things, but she should not feel guilty at all, because I'm very happy. And it was the best decision that could have possibly have been made.
I mean, I don't regret my decision. I just, you know.
Yes. Everything has worked out just fine. What's next? I just end up going on about that. I don't want to go on about that. That's sad.
That's sad.
It's sad. But there were times, you know, where I was overwhelmed. It was like, maybe I need to just go, you know? I can't control myself.
Oh.
Anywho, I gotta look at the rest of my notes.
Victor has
the next topic.
more notes, so we can stop being sad.
Yeah, so we can stop being sad. But I'm still here. It's all okay.
That's all that matters.
It all worked out, and we together now. We just had a long, very TV-esque,
very anime-esque
emotional development.
Yeah.
Guys, if I feel like to a lot of people who weren't us through all of that, it was one of those, anime relationships where you're like, why the fuck aren't these guys together? Ah, shut the fuck up. Why? What the fuck is wrong with you? Probably, but it was complicated, okay?
Probably very valid.
I know probably to my parents,
yeah,
they didn't get it, you know, they don't know what the fuck asexuality is. They're just like, oh, one of these days it's gonna work out.
Kids these days. Because for a long time, your parents, at least your dad, was like, "Is this one of those things where like if you don't find someone by the time you're 40, you'll just get together?"
That's what I kept saying. Because my mom's brother and her friend Sandy did that, but then they didn't, get together after that time.
Ah, well there you go. It didn't even happen.
But I'm like, no, Dad, it's just fucking complicated. And then I did kind of have to play off most of the time, even though I was trying myself to do, be just your friend and not be interested in you. But I had to kind of, even though I think everyone knows I was full of shit, I had to just be like, oh, it's not like that. We're just friends or whatever. Oh, I'm not interested in her anymore. Get the fuck off my dick. Like, shut the fuck up, please. Because people don't like seeing people in the friend zone, of course.
Yeah, they feel the need to egg you on.
Yeah. They wanna be a dick about it, or they wanna give you shit. They wanna call you a fucking idiot. or they think you're wasting your time, And I'm like, guys, I'm not wasting my time.
I'll show you in 6 years.
You can't convince someone that what you're doing is worth it.
Right. Well, that's true. If someone does not see the value in what you're pursuing, they're not gonna be convinced.
Then you have people like poor Boyd, who Boyd has had a girl who was his friend, who they kind of had a thing at one point, for a long time. And that's the girl he lives with and has lived for a long time, but she always has a boyfriend. But he's basically been friend zoned for the longest time, and he'll always be like, oh, we're just friends, I'm not interested in her, blah, 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 blah. So me and him would, have those, so I was on his side with that, and so I think he appreciated that a lot.
Yeah.
And then when we finally got together, he was just like,
shit.
What the fuck happened, bro? And I'm like, yeah, I was just kind of bullshitting. Because I didn't
lying, dog.
I didn't want people to treat me like shit about it, People think you're a fucking cuck when you're a friend zone boy. Like, I'm sorry I fucking value this shit more than my own, feelings most of the time. I don't know, man. It was okay. I feel like the way I put it makes it sound like you're a bad guy, and that's not the case, I dug my own grave. I knew what I was fucking doing.
The dark souls of relationships.
Yeah. You can't be mad at someone if they didn't ask for something more, It's like, I brought it upon myself to be in love with you.
Yes,
I could just back out at any time. You weren't forcing me to continue to be your friend. I could have just not been your friend. I was putting myself in that situation of emotional distress. It's my fault. But I didn't want to not be your friend. Because I love you.
Gay.
Yes, I was a huge faggot my entire life, basically. We're playing Splatoon. Anyways, though, now it's a sense of pride for me, where I'm like, yeah, I stuck true to myself and what I believed in, and eventually, you came around because you cared about me too, That was always, I continually was always anxious that, you didn't give a fuck about me. And that was a thing I had to also get over. It was the fact that just because you didn't want to be with me doesn't mean you don't love me a lot,
Yeah.
Which you do. You did, Yeah. You were a good friend, and you cared about me.
I mean, that's the problem is back then, basically all my affections were invested in the person who, the people who I was closest friends with.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the time, especially when I used to have my very close female friend, that's where, a lot of my affections got invested.
Yeah. And guys, I was a dick too, okay? I was definitely a dick at parts of these times. I don't think I made it particularly easy on you to be my friend, because I definitely probably gave you a lot of shit, It was probably kind of an asshole sometimes.
I mean, I know I deserved it at times,
No.
so I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know.
Because, yeah, you're also,
The problem is that I'm an antagonistic piece of shit.
For one, you're antagonistic. Second, you're not always clear about your feelings. Third,
yeah,
I was
very
kind
dense.
of, like, sort of not doing it on purpose, but was antagonizing in a sense, but really just kind of being inconsiderate sometimes. I know I was definitely kind of inconsiderate. Because for me, it was like, because I'm so affectionate, when you didn't show a lot of affection, it was hard, and like you didn't give a fuck about me, but you did. And for me to go like, oh, you don't give a fuck about me, and then you're like, well, how the fuck why are you being an asshole? Of course I care about you. And I'm just like, too needy.
The problem is that
Absurdly
I'm
needy.
very low key about
Yes.
when I really like somebody.
Yeah.
It's very very subtle normally. I'm not super touchy feely on the most part.
I think this is not touchy feely.
I'm not
Like-
I'm not super vocal about
Yeah, you're not super vocal.
my affections. It's normally very very subtle.
Which for me, who is extremely vocal about every affection, it's hard to understand. But I want to make it clear I wasn't always the nice guy, I was also a dick. At times. What am I doing? I gotta look for more levels.
Say
Let's
four
get on.
more.
Let's get on to a new topic before I talk about how much I'm a dick.
Are we in a new video or is
Let's see. Let's see how
Where-
far
where
we're
we at?
I don't think we're at a new one.
Oh god.
I don't think we've been talking that long.
I just touched my foot and I realized it's got a big scrape from James's
Oh
claws.
no!
My dog jumped on my foot today when we went to
damn.
see my parents, and he just apparently scratched the shit out of me.
Well, that was actually 36 minutes. So
I will say, I feel like that was a chunk.
next time on Digibros Boys, I got a fat fucking story for you.